Hey kiddos, so we are going to be talking about the Neolithic Revolution and rise of civilizations today. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Okay, so early humans were nomadic hunters and gatherers, and they had to move around to find their food. So unlike us, they weren't able to just run into the grocery store to pick up their food. They had to actually go out and get those things. So by hunting animals, gathering crops, from around on trees, from the vines and vineyards. This is how they were able to find their food. So of course it was much more difficult and not easily accessible. Okay, so some hunters and gatherers were advanced, but they were never able to develop complex societies. And the reason why that was is because they had to continue moving around to find food. So you can't just create everything in one place and stay there because you're having to get up and move and go somewhere else. So every time you move, you're meeting new people, you're coming across new circumstances. So that doesn't really lend you the opportunity to have those complex societies. Okay, so around 8000 BC, you have the Neolithic Revolution, which is going to occur, and early humans discover how to farm and domesticate animals. This is important because it means that you don't really have to go anywhere to find food anymore. You can cultivate those things right where you're at. So instead of having to walk around to find things, you can have your own farm, so you have your own crops, you have the animals right there that you need. So that is going to help people begin to settle down. Okay, so of course we just said farming means that people no longer have to be nomads, and if you are able to feed more people, you can have more babies. So because of that, population increases. Farming villages are going to be established along river valleys. That is because they do have good soil, there's irrigation, and they can kind of keep those crops prospering. Here's a chart just to kind of show you the domesticated plants and animals, and you can just pause here if you want to take a second to look it over. This is a chart here to show you population change. So as like with the last image, you can pause here if you need to. All right, so around 3000 BC, some farming villages are going to actually become complex societies. So take a second and write down your idea about what characteristics are needed to make people a civilization. So you can just pause here and get that done. All right, so let's talk a little bit about characteristics of a civilization. First one, civilizations must have cities, and these cities are going to be used for trade for large areas. So you must have cities. Second one, civilizations must have technologies, and this technology will be used to make people's lives easier. No, that does not mean that that technology is going to have to be something like an iPhone. Technology could be a pencil. Technology is a plow. Technology is a desk. Whatever it is that suits that civilization, that can be their technology. All right, it must also have writing, and the reason why is because you need to be able to keep records. You need to have records of what's going on. There's no history without somebody actually writing their story. Okay, so specialized workers is the next one. And the reason why you need specialized workers is because you need certain people to do certain things. And this is going to lead to a class system. Last but not least, complex institutions. So these are the things to keep people in line. Okay, so it could be religion, it could be government, whatever it is to kind of keep people in line. You need rules. So as we said, the world's first civilizations all began in rivers. You can see some of them highlighted here in the colors. The key is at the bottom of the screen. The first civilization that began occurred in Mesopotamia. Okay, here's a closer shot of what Mesopotamia looked like. The word Mesopotamia translates into land between the rivers. It is often also called the Fertile Crescent or the cradle of civilization. It's called the Fertile Crescent because it kind of forms a crescent shape. Okay, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers flooded once per year, and when they flooded, they left behind fertile soil. Sorry for the bell. They left behind fertile soil, and that soil was perfect for farming. So sometimes we see floods and we automatically think bad, but this was actually really good for them during this time. Okay, the first civilization was right here near the Persian Gulf, and that is Sumer. Okay, so because of surrounding deserts and the lack of natural barriers, they were attacked a lot, and they had to build up a defense. Although it wasn't effective and they were taken over, those are some of the things that led them to be taken over and conquered. All right, so lasting contributions that we have from the Mesopotamians. The Sumerian city-states were protected by high walls. So city-states are the areas where these people lived. At the city center was a temple called a ziggurat. And so here we have a picture, and you can see one right here. At the top of the society, we talked about specialized workers, right? So at the top, you have your priests, your kings. Then you have your merchants, and underneath your merchants, you have your farmers, and then your slaves. So think of it like a triangle. It's a pyramid, okay? And so you have your top, and it trickles all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so Sumerians and Babylonians were polytheistic. Polytheistic means that you believe in more than one god. Okay, Hebrews and Palestinian were the first monotheistic religion, people to follow a monotheistic religion. So that means that you are believing in one God. Mono is one. So the holy book that the Hebrews believe in and that they consider their holy text will be the Torah. And one of the biggest parts of that is that God gave Moses these 10 commandments to serve as moral laws. You can pause this here if you'd like to take a closer look at those 10 commandments. All right, so government. Babylonian king Hammurabi created the first legal code, which consisted of 282 laws based on justice and retaliation. This is where the example and the phrase an eye for an eye comes from, and we will talk a little bit more about this in class. And inside of this code, there are a bunch of different punishments for things that may occur in your society. You can pause this here if you'd like to take a little closer look at a few of the codes. All right, as far as writing, the Sumerians made the world's first writing called cuneiform. Okay, so Phoenicians took this writing and simplified it to a 22-letter alphabet, which later trickled down all the way to forming languages such as Greek, Latin, and English. So we can thank the Sumerians for our language. You can pause this here to take a closer look at the different alphabets. Technology. So Sumerians invented several different things like the wheel, the sail, the plow, and bronze metalwork. These are all things that help them to be able to stay in that area and further prosper to help their people. Right, so that is going to be it for ancient Mesopotamia and the rise of civilizations, and we will be going a little bit more into detail in class. Let me know if you have any further questions.